Hey guys, welcome back. This is a follow-up. So in this video, we are going to test the consumer side. So we are going to use the same approach that we did in the previous video. So we are going to use the Kafka container, the real Kafka container in our consumer side. So this is the same as we did in the producer side. Okay, if you remember, we had here the integration test-based config, which provide for us MySQL container as well as Kafka container. So we are going to do the same, okay, for the consumer side. So in that order, let's just copy, okay, this integration test-based config, okay, class to our consumer side, right? So let's do that. But first, let's create here a package. So now that we have here our package configuration, let's just paste. Let's remove some properties that maybe we will not need it, okay? Yes, so as you can see, we need also the dependencies, right? For test containers and so on. Now let's paste it here on our consumer side. Let's load. And now, as we can see, everything is okay. So here, maybe we can, for example, change in order to match the same name that we have in production or in our application property, okay? So the database will be decision. So this is what we have here, right? So in order to make this integration test to use the real Kafka container, okay? I think we need also to do here something like this, for example, removing it because the test class should not be public, okay? And yeah, now that we have our configuration, our setup done, okay, now we can start creating here our consumer side integration test using the Kafka container, okay? So let's do it. So now that we have here our configuration, the next thing that we need to do is we need to provide a mean for example, like the producer message verifier. If you remember in the previous video, we provide the consumer, right? Because we were in the producer side and we have to actually like to see if we actually produced an event or a message to a topic. Now, in the consumer side, we need to provide a mean to produce an event in order to allow us to consume, right? So we are going to create a producer message verifier that will send an event to Kafka topic, and then we are going to consume, okay, using our implementation here. So in that order, here in configuration, we are going to create a new class. Let's name it as a producer message verifier. Now, having our class, we need to annotate it as a configuration. So that's good. Next thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a bean, okay, for message verifier sender, okay, where we are going to actually override the default configuration of message verifier, which is the one that Spring Cloud Contract use, okay, internally. So in that order, let's create here, for example, message verifier. In producer side, it was receiver, right? Now in the consumer side, it should be the sender. So it will receive a message. Remember, the Spring here is the Spring messaging, right? And so we can just say, for example, the message will be a wildcard, okay? And let's call it by, for example, standalone, okay? Message verifier, okay? And yeah, for our case, let me think, okay, let's just leave it like this. And here we are going to return, okay, a new message verifier sender, okay? So actually we are going to override this, right? We are going to override the methods that Spring Cloud Contracts use internally. So yeah, now the first thing that we need to do, as we can see, okay, these methods here, we need to provide a mean to send, okay, a mean that will allow us to send the message to the topic, right? So in our case, for example, we could use the Kafka template or something like that, but as we are using the Spring Cloud Stream, I'm just going to use here the stream bridge, okay? The stream bridge. So stream bridge, yes, it receives a stream bridge. Oh, my bad, it should be here, right? So let's just call it by stream bridge, not here, but here. And yeah, let's use the stream bridge, okay, in order to send the event that our Spring Cloud contract, okay, is loading, okay, that our Spring Cloud contract will consume here, okay. So in that order, let's just use here, let's just go here, for example, stream bridge that send, okay. Now we need to say the binding name. Where we get the binding name, for example, is here, right? So we for example, we can just send, okay, to this binding name. Of course, we could send to a topic, okay, but we are going to see it later. But let's just use the binding name. So let's just copy here. Yeah, let's use it like this, and let's provide the message, okay? So just like this. So for this method here, for example, we could, let's say, like create, okay, let's just create a map, okay, which will contain as a key the string, and the value will be an object, okay, because we could reuse this. Let's just create these new headers, okay, and yeah, it will be like, for example, if the header is not null, okay, which header? This here, right? Yeah, so let's just use, for example, new hash map, okay, headers, or else we are going to use, okay, an empty, okay. So this is the header that we are going to use. So, and the next thing that we need to do is to provide the actual headers, right? So we can just put, for example, let's use the Kafka headers, okay, and let's say the topic, okay, and the value will be the destination, okay. Having it like this, we can once again use the stream bridge, okay, in order to send, okay, the same way that we did here. Just say here that we are sending to our binding, and here we just, for example, we can provide the message builder, okay, as we need to provide a message. Let's just use the message builder, and yeah, let's just create message. The message payload will be the payload, which one? This payload here that we are getting from this method, right? The header actually will be these new headers, okay, that we have just created here, right? So in that order, let's put it like this. It's all right. It needs a semicolon here. Yeah, this is the first step, and I think the next step, we need also to, for example, we need to provide a new bean, okay, which will be, for our case, the primary bean, okay. If you understand what is the primary here, okay, you know that if we have some other provided already bean, okay, we are going to use this our one, which will be the primary one, the primary bean that we are going to choose in our implementation, okay, when we run this method here. So the next thing that we need to do, we are going to use the message converter, okay. Yes, because we need to actually provide, okay, a message converter because Spring Cloud contract use its own implementation, or Spring Cloud Stream, okay. So let's just use the message converter like this, okay. It's a, let's suppose like this, and yeah, it should return, okay, our custom implementation of message converter, okay. So in that order, let's just create here a new class. Let's call it by no-op message converter. Okay, which will extend, okay, the JSON message converter, okay? So this is our class that will allow us to do the message converter. And let's just, for example, here generate the constructor. So the default constructor here, and actually I think we can just leave it like this. And also we need to, for example, override the convert payload, okay, because we are going to use in order to convert our payload here. So in that order, let's just use here, for example, override, and we need the one that converts payload. Yeah, this one here. So having it like this, okay, so we can just, for example, return, okay, in that order, the message payload itself, okay. And here, of course, we are going to instantiate our class message converter, okay, no op message converter. So this is what we need to do in order to make our consumer side, okay, when running the Spring Cloud contract, we are going to make our consumer side to first receive, okay, to first trigger the contract, then receive a message. How we are going to receive a message from a real Kafka broker or real Kafka topic? Through this implementation that we did here, okay, because when we run our Spring Cloud contract test, okay, it will run this method here. It's gonna use, okay, it will use the Kafka containers, okay, and will send the message that we have provided in our test, that our producer side provide when it created the label, okay, the previous test from our producer side. So when it runs, okay, it will use this our implementation. It will send an event to a real Kafka container that we created here, okay? And once, okay, we send the event to real Kafka container, our application that will use the Kafka container will receive, okay, the event and process it. So as you may guess, how our test here will use the real Kafka container, the answer is simple. We just need to extend the integration, okay, our integration, let's call it by integration, test base message config, okay, this one here that we have the Kafka container. Now we just need to run the Maven, let's say like the clean. We are going to use also the install. So now let's run our test. Everything is all right. Let's check like this, like that. So if we run our test, let's see what's gonna happen. It will run our containers, the database and Kafka, okay, as we have here. So our Kafka container is up, okay. So no label should publish customer created. I think I was changing here something, okay, because if we take a look here on our producer side, okay, now our producer side, when I create the contract, okay, I set up the label as should publish customer created, okay, label. So in that order, let's go to our test, okay, and here, no, it's here, okay. So when we trigger, we are going to trigger the correct label, okay. So you can put the label, you can choose the naming convention for your label, okay, but remember, always use the one that producer side defined, okay. If it was the producer side, the, how can I say, like the owner, okay, of this event or the test, okay, or the integration one. In that order, let me just fix this test, okay, and now this time we are going to use the debug mode in order just to make sure that we are actually using a real Kafka, okay. And in another place also, I'm just going to put, for example, a breakpoint here in the message handler, okay. So let's run in debug mode. So now, as you can see here, right, our producer message verifier, right? Our producer message verifier has been invoked. We are taking, right, the message, as we can see here, okay, the message that we have defined in our producer side, okay, and now we are going to send this message to a Kafka topic, okay, which is the customer topic, okay, as we can see here from the message header, okay, from the message headers here, okay, so we are sending it to the Kafka topic, the destination, okay. Now let's move forward. As we can see, okay, once we send, okay, the message, okay, once we receive the message, as we can see here, we invoke, okay, our function, okay, our consumer function that is consuming the event, okay, and processing it, okay. So as we can see here, right, processing the customer created, right, with the payload and so on, okay. Now if we go here, we can see that we are going to make the decision, okay, and so on, and then we start, okay, asserting, okay, using the await utility, okay, and doing the assertions. So the first thing that we did, we went to database, okay, we find the first one that we have just persists, okay, and now we are start asserting everything, okay. So it just give the condition timeout execution, okay, because I made the breakpoint and so on. But if we check without the breakpoints or without debug, we can see that the test will succeed. So now, as we can see, running without debug mode, we will see that the test will succeed. So guys, this is what we have here, okay? Our test has succeeded.